Hi. Did you know that in 1806, Lieutenant Zebulon Pike was leading his troops up the Arkansas River? When he was somewhere south of east of Pueblo, he wrote in his journal that he thought he saw a small blue cloud along the horizon. Well, it turned out to be the first description of Pikes Peak, what was later known as Pikes Peak. And he never did climb it, but we sure appreciate it now. It's definitely the dominating force in the Colorado Springs area. We call it the Pikes Peak region. Um, in 1893, Catherine Lee Bates was a visiting scholar here at Colorado College in Colorado Springs. And making it to the top, she was so impressed by her experience that when she returned down to the Colorado College, she wrote a poem that later was put to music, and it's now known as America the Beautiful. So that's the end of my history lesson for now. In a minute, we'll go into the present and three different ways to get up Pikes Peak, and then some different events that happen only once a year here on Pikes Peak. So we'll get to those in just a minute. Just a reminder that we do one of these every week, and if you'd like to keep up on living, playing, and working in Colorado Springs, please hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell so you're reminded when we post a new one. And here's my contact information. I'd love to hear you ask questions or make suggestions on what else you'd like to hear. So we're going to talk about ways to get up Pikes Peak. And the first one, the easiest one, the most common one, is just driving your car up. It's now totally paved. It's about 19 and a half miles. Might take you 2.5 to 3 hours round trip. Of course, you might extend that out if you stop for fishing or hiking, or you bring your mountain bike and take a little ride. You may want to spend some time at the top at the visitor center where they have their world famous donuts that they figured out a way to bake at over 14,000 feet. Their secret recipe they will not let out. There's a new visitor center being constructed right now. In fact, you can see it from here in town. And it should be open sometime in 2021, getting very close. I'll put in a link to the video about the construction down below. So that's one way to get up. Now, when you are coming back down, they'll be sure to stop you at one point, and they will check your brakes because hot brakes fail, and they want to make sure that if your brakes are already warm, they'll let you sit until they cool down. Best way to do it is put the car into a lower gear and just let that help you break down, because you don't want to have your brakes on for 19 miles. That's a recipe for disaster. And keep in mind, there are no guardrails on this road. So if you are acrophobic, you may want to have somebody else do the driving. Everybody else would appreciate that too. Another way to get up that's motorized, but you don't have to drive, is taking the Cog Railway. It's been around for a long time. It was closed down a few years ago after the Broadmoor bought it because it was falling apart, basically. It was in bad shape. It was closed for many years, but they've gone back in and they've torn out everything that existed. So now they're putting in new rails, new cars, a new depot, the new cog itself. So that'll all be open May 2021. And then you'll be able to go up through some amazing territory you can't see any other way to the very top. Now it's only a 9-mile ride, so about less than half as long as the car ride, but they don't have to do as many switchbacks on the Cog Railway. It pretty much goes straight up through some incredible places. And then you're at the top, get out, go get your donuts, check out views, take a few pictures, and then you can come back down the same way. You will need reservations for sure. If you're a little more adventurous, a little stronger physically, you may want to hike up Barr Trail. Barr Trail was built by a guy named Fred Barr from 1914 to 1918. During World War I, he was building this trail up there, just digging it out himself pretty much. He had a burro concession, and he thought it'd be nice to have a ride to the top where you could rent your burro and take it to the top of Pikes Peak. Doesn't sound like that would be a big hit right now. Doesn't sound very comfortable to get bounced around for 19 miles going up on the back of a burro, but that was his dream, and Barr Trail lives on. So that's one thing you can do to get to the top. Also, now there's another thing that a lot of people come to the mountain for. It's virtually straight up, and it will not make you to the top, but it's the Manitou Incline. This was another funicular, kind of like the Cog Railway, but it just went up, straight up 2,000 feet, about a mile. And I remember doing it as a kid. You'd get on it and you'd go backwards, and just the whole city would be coming in revealed to you as you went up backwards. You get up to the top and buy your popcorn or whatever and get back on and come back down. Well, many years ago now, that system was falling apart. No one had the money or desire to put it back together. So they ripped out the rails, probably sold them for scrap, but left all the cross ties in. And so runners started going up that as a workout, and it was kind of off limits. It was illegal in parts. That has all been squared away. So now all the entities agree on ownership and maintenance. They've put in new railroad ties where needed, and there's a couple places you can bail out. But it's an incredibly hard workout. It's 2,000 vertical feet in less than a mile. And when you get off the top, then you still have to run down Bar Trail for the last 2.5 miles. So quite a workout. Some people do it multiple times. Some people try and break the record, which is just over 17 minutes for men and 20 minutes for women. A lot of people will take at least an hour. But you'll see Fort Carson soldiers up there, Olympic athletes up there, just weekend warriors making it up there. No dogs allowed. Parking is scarce up there. Your best bet is to park for free in town and take the free shuttle. So that's about getting up and around on Pikes Peak. There's one other thing I want to mention to you. It's called the Ring the Peak Trail. When it's finished, it will be 63 miles long. It starts, well, one end is in Colorado Springs, or in Manitou Springs, 6,400 feet, goes all the way up to 11,300 feet. They've got it about 80% complete, so they're still working out some details of the route finding and getting permission from landowners up there. That's on the south side. But in the meantime, there's 10 different portals, they call them, that you can enter the trail and hike it as long as you want. So there's no biking in the wilderness area. If there, yeah, there is a wilderness area. So it's mainly for hiking, horseback. I wanted to tell you about a couple of the cool events that only happen once a year up on Pikes Peak. Next August, the last Sunday in August, we'll have the 99th running of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. This has been going on since 1916. A few years were taken off for the wars. Basically, it started out as just car racing. Now they've got multiple categories of cars plus motorcycles. And if you want to see it, you have to make reservations for a camping spot because you got to be in there the night before, because they start that thing pretty early in the morning and nobody can be on the road ahead of them. So there are 4 places you can make reservations to watch these guys go by. Again, no guardrails, and people have gone off. In 2018, a new record was set, overall record of under 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 57 seconds. This guy went up in an all-electric VW, and that record still stands as far as I know. So that's some big fun for that kind of event. Again, if you're interested in going up on Bar Trail the weekend before in August, you can run up the Pikes Peak Ascent or the Marathon. The Ascent goes up on Saturday, starts in Manitou Springs, and just runs down Manitou Avenue and gets up Ruxton Avenue and then onto the trail. And it goes up over 13 miles, over 7,800 feet, I believe, in elevation gain. And I've done it 5 times, and it's a killer. Don't let anybody tell you they ran the whole thing. You run as much as you can, and you walk a whole bunch of it. Maybe the winner and the record setters would run the whole thing, but they're superhuman, not as normal mortals. You do have to qualify. They don't want anybody up who hasn't gotten a half marathon or marathon under the qualifying times. There's a few other ways to qualify as well. So that's for the really hardcore. As I mentioned, the Ascent goes up on Saturday. The round trip marathon, which goes up and down, is on Sunday. Some people are now doing it both. They run up Saturday and then they get a ride down, and somehow they recover enough to do the up and down the next morning. I cannot believe it. And coming down to the marathon is really tough on your knees. You see people at the bottom with skinned up knees as they fail and skinned up hands. So not too many people die on that run. but it's a killer for sure. And then I'm saving the coolest for the very end, and that is the fireworks that they shoot off on New Year's Eve. In 1922, a group of 5 men, including the aforementioned Fred Barr, thought it'd be fun to hike up his trail to the top of Pikes Peak to welcome in the new year. They were later known as the Frozen Five, and they thought it would be cool to keep doing it every year and keep it a small club. They would just add in one more person a year, so they called it the Add a Man Club. And each year they'd add in one more person. In this century, they finally started letting women in. So there's a few women members, but it's a small club and very elite to get into that thing. If you're interested in joining, you have to send in your application, and they'll want to know about your mountaineering and climbing experience. And if you get invited to the dinner, they'll check you out and see if they want to invite you along as a guest. And if you're along as a guest, then you're kind of in the finals, and then they'll pick somebody to join the club for the next year. So that's the Add a Man Club with these fabulous fireworks at the top. At 9 o'clock, they set off fireworks just to see if the visibility is there in the city. When they cross, and the second day as they're going up there, as they get above timberline, they flash mirrors down to the city so their friends and neighbors and onlookers can see that they've made it that far. And then the 9 o'clock fireworks and the midnight explosion, and that's pretty cool. And that wraps up 2020, which we'll all be glad to see goodbye, and then bringing 2021 with a bang. So here's a couple of other videos that might intrigue you if you're interested in more about living, working, and playing in Colorado Springs. Be sure and hit that little circle dot that I just brought up to subscribe. Here's some information to get a hold of me directly. If you've got any questions about Colorado Springs or living or moving here, or if you'd like to make a suggestion about another topic to cover, let me know. Till next time, take care. Bye.